Okay, so let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety is the destroyer of a happy life, and its first cousin, depression's right there with it. But, the biggest thing that I went through during my awakening was the feelings and sensations that I would have in my body, and I couldn't attribute it to anything I was thinking. Because as I was trying to master my mind and my thinking so that I didn't feel all of these terrible things going on inside my body, I really got to this point where I couldn't pinpoint a thought that invoked anxiety or sadness, aka depression. And so there's been a lot of studies about that because, everything is mind. Let's just keep it real. If we didn't have our mind, there would be nothing. And so everything is mind. In our mind, it's proven in scientific studies that the mind activates the chemicals that makes us feel certain things. And so that's what this video is about, y'all. We want to be able to wrangle in this depression and sadness and, most importantly, anxiety when we don't really know what to attribute it to so that we can get over it. If that's happening, then this is the video for you. Okay, so if you've struggled with anxiety or depression, I just want to add depression in there too, because to me, they're just total polar opposites of something happening within our body that we can say, oh, I have a deep sense of sadness, or I have a deep, strong feeling of anxiety, and I just can't shake it. And these are really strong things that are coming up and being purged out of our energetic system during awakening, expansion, midlife crisis, whichever modality you want to call it. It gets pretty intense. And so we just have to figure out if you're like me, where's this coming from? I didn't even think anything. I'm just sitting here minding my business, watching freaking Family Feud. I don't freaking know. And all of a sudden, and it's like, why, God? Why me? My favorite thing to say is, why am I being punked by the universe now? Like, what? What did I do? And so I started to get very self-aware. And, that's one thing that during awakening, I think that a big thing is we become super self-aware because the conflict inside of us is intense and it forces us to become self-aware. And so with that self-awareness, then we become very mindful of what we're thinking and what we're doing, especially because it starts to get traumatizing, the amount of anxiety and sadness, right? And just emotional triggers and the little mood swings and just all that. It's just like frazzling, right? And so my point being that I really couldn't attribute these sensations that supposedly my mind was triggering the chemicals to bring up in my body. I couldn't find the thought. And I like how Mel Robbins had that example. She was like, think about it. If you are almost in a car accident and you're just like, everything, the adrenaline, the fear, the anxiety, everything just comes up, right? And then you avoid the accident and the car drives away and you start to calm down and then it goes away. And you're just like, ooh, I'm safe. And then it goes away. That is the normal response for anxiety or a fear response, any type of emotional response. Something happens, a thought activates it, a vision activates it, something activates it. And then when the moment has passed and the danger is clear, then our body learns to soothe itself, settle down, and it's just done, right? So she says, but imagine you just wake up in the middle of the night and you're just riddled with anxiety and you're like, there's nothing going on. Well, there really was in your dreams, right? And she's like, so then you don't have anything to attribute it to that was wrong, so that you can be clear that the danger has passed, like with the car accident, and you avoided it, and so then your body was able to calm down. There's nothing to attribute it to. So you don't have that mind assurance to start to soothe your central nervous system. Because that's really what's happening. There's some kind of chemical activation happening in your central nervous system is getting triggered, right? And so I have found with coaching, with my life, with the people I know, all of this is I truly do believe that anxiety lives more in the domain of we're perceiving a danger in the future. Even with a car accident, it would have been in the future. You saw it. it's about to happen. It causes anxiety, adrenaline, that type of thing. But with sadness and depression, it's like you're living more in the past, right? Your mind will just, oh, I miss him. He left me, this, that, just something in the past. And so then if you could bring yourself back to presence, right, then avoid those feelings. So that's where that concept of being present is beneficial. But let's just keep it real. When we are going through a crisis point in our life, a midlife crisis, an expansion of consciousness, awakening, some kind of life event that caused a big, abrupt thing to happen, our nervous system can be very active. It can be very sensitive to everything. It's just hyper-focused because it's not able to settle because something has disturbed it so deeply, right? And so what's happening here is that our usual stuff that works naturally, oh, the danger has passed. Oh, that moment's gone. I'll just live present. And then you soothe yourself and it's gone, is not able to happen. And this is key. And the reason it's key is because what we've learned from the animal kingdom, let me just tell you, I had this story that profoundly changed me about bears. I believe it was bears. An animal, a wild animal, right? So now I'm starting to think, was it tigers? Doesn't matter. I'm sure they all do this. But no, I'm pretty sure it was a bear. It was perceiving an attack that was going to come and get it. And so it got that trigger in that fight or flight response at our central nervous system. It activates chemicals to get the anxiety, the adrenaline, and he bolted, right? He gets out of danger. And then, he starts to settle. Like we talked about with the car accident thing, he starts to settle. And then what scientists started to study is what bears were doing after that moment had passed is they would start to shake uncontrollably for a pretty good grip of time. And then once they were done shaking, they shaked it off. Maybe that's where Taylor Swift came up with that. Anyway, they shaked it off and they were just fine. They just went about their lives. And so now what they've come to realize with their studies is they were shaking off the trauma. There was something about the need to shake that. And to me, it just seems pretty logical to see that they were probably shaking out the cortisol, the adrenaline, all of the things that the mind created for the body to activate for them to get to safety. And so they were shaking it out. Okay, so then they would just go about their day. But for us, with the car accident example, we do that too. We don't shake it off, but we self-soothe ourselves. And so this is real important because when we are having anxiety and we don't know why, it's just there, we can do the same thing. We don't have to, but unfortunately, and that's what's keeping us in anxiety, we keep trying to analyze why we have anxiety. This is going to last forever. We're traumatized by anxiety at this point. So we're just keeping that anxiety. We're not shaking it off. We're not soothing it. We're just spiraling. And as we do this more and more, it starts to perpetuate itself because we're never giving it that soothing cue. Now, don't get it twisted. That soothing cue isn't just, oh, you're just tripping, relax. That's not a soothing cue. The whole reason our mind is going to what caused this is because it wants to say it's okay. It's not really going to happen. So be with me here. So basically what I'm telling you is we can just give it a soothing cue to activate our mind to do the soothing thing that it does, and not in the usual way. So don't dismiss this right here. It's not just telling yourself, relax, it's okay. There's no danger, this, that. No, that's not it. You can't fool the mind like that. You can't tell it something that it's not experiencing or seeing. But how are you going to see that it's okay if you don't even know what it's triggered about, right? I really want to point out to you that the mind, if you're not able to find with your mind what triggered the anxiety, then it doesn't matter. What does matter is that you create a scene in your mind, totally irrelevant scene of happiness and joy and soothing. Yeah. Because what's happening now with our normal reaction of trying to get over this anxiety is we try to talk ourselves out of it. But our mind, and I think we're all starting to realize this, especially if you're going through awakening, is the imagination's important. The imagination is our third eye. It is, how we can use the mind as a tool with our imagination, because our mind doesn't really know the difference between the external reality, which is an illusion, and what we imagine. I've even done studies on that, like where they had athletes, do their warm-ups in their mind, and then the actual other, like another half of the group, do the warm-ups, and they were both fine, warmed up. Or, just in a lot of different circumstances in life, they have tested just using the mind as a tool, and it works. And I'm sure you've heard this in some caliber or capacity in your life. So my point is what you can do is take yourself to an extremely peaceful environment. And so this is going to take a little bit of mastery, and it's not going to work on the first try. But once you start to do this, this is the key. And if you really suffer from anxiety, please hear me out. We got to get on this. So here's what you do. So you feel the anxiety and you're like, oh, it just swung out of nowhere. And trust me, it didn't. It's something unconscious in you that got triggered. It could have been the most minimal thing, and all of a sudden your unconscious triggered something. In Course in Miracles, Jesus says we never know the reason we're upset. He's talking about it could have been multiple lifetimes ago. It's still stored in our energy body, our unconscious mind. So what we do is we go to that place. So for me, it would be when I'm in, I can feel it right now. Ugh. I'm in the salt baths in the middle of the California desert, and there is nobody around. In the salt water, the fresh spring salt water, the hot sun beating on me. And I just remember that peaceful place. And before you know it, there is zero choice. Your body is going to have to produce the chemicals that make you feel peace, which is the elixir. It alchemizes, it neutralizes the anxiety. But you got to want it. Because shifting your mind from that fight or flight in the analysis of why and this and that, and then being able to envision yourself somewhere else so you can activate those chemicals in your brain and body, it's going to take a little bit of work. And then the minute you start to feel the anxiety break, you need to get up and you need to change your situation in whatever way that is. If you're in your room, go to the living room. If you're in the living room, go outside. Just change the environment you're in after that. And then before you know it, it's gone. And you just keep doing that, because I cannot convey to you deeply enough to understand that everything that's happening, especially with anxiety or depression or any activation of our central nervous system or any mind pattern that's activated, it has a lot of momentum. And if it's uncontrollable and it's annoying, like anxiety can be, it just means you have too much going on in your subconscious or conscious mind or environment that's triggering it. And so the more that you override it with these visions of peace and joy and happiness, you got to find them, the more it sucks the momentum of that pattern out. And before you know it, you won't suffer with anxiety anymore. Because if you are having a fight or flight response, which is kind of what anxiety is, it's over adrenaline, and you don't know what the cause is, and your body doesn't realize that the threat is gone. So you got to create it. And don't try to create it with some kind of, well, let me figure out what it's anxious about and figure out the solution and envision it. No, just go to anything that feels amazing and just envision it. You're there. This is why meditation is important, but we don't have to be meditators. We can literally just envision this so we can just wrangle in those chemicals that were activated, because let's just keep it real. Our body is activating it, and you know that. And your mind is the creator. So your mind can create the elixir. Bam. So I hope that helps, because anxiety in awakening is a huge one, because I believe that what Jesus is talking about with I will give you back the tree of life in his whole ministry of joy, peace, love, he is talking about our central nervous system. I'm not the only one that thinks like that. I'm pretty sure everybody that went through awakening thinks that. And so we have got to realize, to get back our tree of life, which is automated by our traumas and our unconscious mind into these patterns that suck, we have to take the wheel with Jesus, of course, through his teachings, right? Joy, peace, love. I don't want to sound religious. Jesus was a metaphysician, y'all, so he's pretty brilliant. But all right, so I hope you get to that envisioning, and I hope it helps, and just keep going and keep doing it. And before you know it, the momentum of anxiety and the triggers of your central nervous system will be gone for good. And that's what we all want. Joy, peace, love, right? All right, so I hope this video helps you with your anxiety. And if you liked it, please like, share, subscribe. Until next time, take care.